I'm not going to be able to do it now without fucking laughing.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon!
Hello and welcome to the Creator Fighter Podcast, joined today with one half of the Creator Fighter Podcast, Lewis and Jesse. Today we're going to be breaking down and investigating the Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier fight, and we're also going to have a little look at the Dan Hooker versus Michael Chandler fight. It won't be as intense because it's not a Conor McGregor fight, and Michael Chandler doesn't have an extensive UFC record. Obviously, he's been a world champion outside of the organisation. This is you're finding out a lot about him today.
Is that what we're saying on the Chandler Hooker fight? Is that it? We're done now. It's all
We're
McGregor
done.
Poirier.
Right.
That's it. So
Let's get back to the Conor McGregor fight. But a little insight into Michael Chandler is before we start anything. Multiple world champion in other organisations. World champion in Bellator. Probably juiced to the gills. And now he's finally fighting amongst the elite in the UFC. And he starts with Dan Hooker. He tried to get a fight last time UFC was at Fight Island, and nobody would accept it. He went there as a backup to Habib Gaethje.
Right.
So he went through a full training camp, went through a full weight cut, travelled all the way to Abu Dhabi, 13-hour flight, just to not fight. Showed his commitment. I think Dana liked it. Bought himself a few fans, and now he's done the same thing. A lot of people were turning down the fight with him because if they're ranked fighters, nobody wants to dip their toe in the pool against an unknown guy and lose their ranking. But Dan Hooker's as game as anyone. He accepted the fight. Little preview into their fight, but let's talk about Conor and Dustin. The main reason why a lot of people are watching this weekend. We're going to attract a lot of casuals. It's casual weekend. It's a Conor McGregor fight. Conor McGregor. Let's look at what he's done since Conor's and Dustin's first fight. You saw that, right? We played that through. We played that through. So Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor, September 27th, 2014. Long time ago. 7 years this September. So 6 years and a few months. It was his fourth fight in the UFC. He'd just beat Brimage, Holloway, Brandao, and then he knocks out Dustin in the first.
Shout out Holloway for last weekend.
Yeah, god damn, what a performance. Maybe we'll talk about that at the end and we'll go through the highlights of that fight. But Conor versus Dustin, a lot of the talk heading into their rematch is going to be how has each fighter changed. 6 years is a long time.
Awful.
They've both been champions at 155. That's a big talking point, I think. Conor McGregor, what did he go on to do in those 6 years? What did he spend those 6 years doing? How has he improved? What changes has he made to his game? He KOs Dennis Siver, beats Chad Mendes, who he was fighting on short notice because Aldo pulled out. Aldo pulled out of that fight, so Chad Mendes stepped in on 2 weeks' notice. Credit to Chad Mendes, absolute legend of the sport. But he beats him, silences a lot of people who are like, he's going to lose as soon as he fights a wrestler. Conor's ground game is so underrated, man. He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He's extreme. Yeah, he's really, really good grappling, but people underrate it. Knocks out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. Everybody has seen that. Then he was supposed to be going up to 155 against Dos Anjos. Right. To explain the backstory of what happened with Conor here. He just knocks out the greatest featherweight of all time in 13 seconds. The only other featherweight champion at that time. When they made the featherweight division, Jose Aldo became champion and retained it all the way up to 2015, where he lost it to Conor McGregor. He was the inaugural featherweight UFC champion. Anyway, Conor's like, okay, I want to do what I did in Cage Warriors. I want belts in 2 divisions simultaneously, never done before, make history. So he's supposed to be fighting Dos Anjos. They have a little presser. Dos Anjos pulls out. Nate Diaz does that legendary interview moment. I think you've probably seen it where, Conor McGregor, you're taking everything I work for, motherfucker. I want to fight your fucking ass. Legendary gangster moment. Gets the fight against Conor. And then Nate tells Dana something like, I want it a catch weight at 160 because I might not get to 155 in the short amount of time. So Conor tells Dana, tell that bitch it's at 170. So he's now going 2 weight divisions up. 25 pounds over what he was normally fighting. probably didn't even weigh that, and he probably weighed around 165. He weighed in for that fight at 168, and he looked bloated.
Jesus.
But yeah, he goes in, he loses, he gasses out, he can't get rid of Nate's indestructible chin. He tires, tries to take Diaz to the ground. Diaz is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, choked him out subsequently.
Rear naked chokehold.
Connor's like, okay, maybe I didn't do things right. It stings, but we'll go back, we'll reevaluate. He was quite humble in his loss there. He goes back. I think spending more time at that weight is the biggest thing that helped his cardio. Because when you change weight, and I'm gonna dip into my knowledge of the body and nutrition here. When you change your body weight, it's not just your body weight. It's not just the number on the scales that change. Your body's whole nervous system is used to you walking around. It's adjusted its central nervous system and its balance based on you weighing this.
Average weight.
You go up by like 20 pounds, suddenly your balance is off. Everything is off, including your cardio. Your body hasn't produced and adapted to that weight in such a short amount of time. I think that really was a big factor in that first fight. In the second fight, he clearly has a lot more stamina. Clearly was getting tired towards the end of the fight, like a lot of fighters do when they're banging the way they did in that fight.
What weight did they fight at in the rematch?
170.
Still 170.
Yeah,
so he just
Conor was like, I want it.
Up to it, yeah.
So he spent a lot more time at that weight, and I think Conor's stamina is also another thing, like his grappling game. That just it gets a bad because he gassed out in the Diaz fight. He's gassed out in some fights, but with the shots he's throwing, I don't think his stamina is that much different to a typical UFC fighter. It's just his game is different, and there are like little factors, like the fact that he went up, made such a jump in the weight division. It's going to affect your cardio no matter what. He spent more time on it. He really worked on his cardio for that second fight, and he lasted out there, and they finished the fight strong. He got the nod for that. Great fight. It was one of my favorite fights of that year, I remember. And then after he's done with Diaz at 170, he goes back down. Eddie Alvarez is now the 155 champion. So I'm going to beat Eddie Alvarez.
Straight in, takes that
title. And he's still the featherweight champion here. He's fighting at 170, but he's still the 145 champ. That's crazy. If you're going to have two fights at 170, maybe you shouldn't be the featherweight champ. But the circumstances that were surrounding that, it's Conor, I understand. Especially he was trying to do the double weight thing.
Belt,
maybe, you just give him a slight pass to try and make that history. And it wasn't like it was a significant amount of time. It was a long amount of time, but look, he won the belt in December 2015. 3 months later is when he fought Diaz at 170. There was a 3-month gap. He jumped up 20 pounds in weight division. And then you look again, March to August in the same year, he was like, I'm going to go straight back in.
4 or 5 months?
March, April, May, June, July, 4 months. So 4 months, 8 fights there. So it's like, now we're not even a year in. And there are champions out there who will defend in January and then defend in December. And that's a longer time than when Conor became champion and defended against Diaz the second time. So the only thing is he fought twice at 170, but it was in the space of like 6 months. So champions go 6 months without fighting. This was right around when interim titles were just slowly sort of becoming a thing. They weren't massive back then. Conor was the interim featherweight champ. You see that? It's got a belt by his name there. Against Mendes, that fight was for the interim champ. That was one of the first ones. And it made sense because Aldo was injured and Conor was supposed to be fighting for the title. So okay, this is for the interim title. That made sense. But anyway, November, see how active he is here. November, again, a few months later, fights Eddie Alvarez for the 155 title in one of what is his best performances inside a cage. He absolutely flatlines Eddie. Just as crisp and clean as a performance as he could have had into the second round, I think it was. But he just kept dropping him over and over and over again. Eddie was never in the fight. Beautiful performance. Becomes the double champ. We know he talks about that a lot. Oh, we've got the proper 12 here, by the way. Celebrating a Conor fight the right way, with the big bottle as well, not the little bottle, the big bottle. Anyway, does that, and then he goes. There's a 2-year layoff here, and that's basically a legit 2-year layoff. He boxes Floyd Mayweather. His boxing skills obviously increased there. But this is a tough period in Conor's life, I think, especially in his fighting career. He clearly got involved in some substances, a little bit too much. He enjoyed the Proper 12. It's good, but he enjoyed it a little bit too much. He became this crazy rabid animal, very distasteful fighter to watch.
As well, isn't it, in 2018?
Yeah.
And he's now been proven innocent.
Yeah. Recently been proven innocent of, and then they try and start it up again. But yeah, a really bad period in Conor's life. He's clearly on some substances. He's clearly got a problem with his alcohol. He's clearly struggling with some things.
No, absolutely.
What's that Jay-Z line? All the bright lights, look what they did to Tyson. Oh. Like, what's the exact line? It's like, bright lights, $1 million every night. Look what that did to Tyson, or some shit like that. Anyway, Tyson went off the rails as well. He was always a dog off the rails. Anyway, he grew up in like one of the toughest fucking regions, and anyway, Conor, he went through a really rough time. And an interesting quote from Conor this week was, Habib beat the worst of me. Habib faced the worst of me that night. I faced the best of him, and that's why he doesn't want to rematch me. Now I'm back to the best of me. So, and we could debate about that as well after we've looked into the Conor-Dustin fight. But yeah, he loses to Habib. He put on the best performance anyone has put in my opinion, against Habib. He actually beat him. He's the only legit one to make Habib lose a round. Did really well. And you could tell he was off though. Even his body, I think he looked a bit puffier than usual. He didn't look as, like, now he looks shredded. He's big, thick muscles.
Ready.
Yeah, he looks ready. He didn't look quite ready that fight. Mentally, he was doing all kinds of crazy shit. I mean, and he took a 2-year layoff. He's become a father twice, and I think his third is on the way. He's kicked his habit. He doesn't drink anymore. He just has little glasses here and there when he's celebrating something. I think the substance issue is gone, because in interviews it doesn't seem like he's all sped up and like not aware of where he is. Now he's back to that, like, he knows where he is. He's calm, he's collected, he's talking about like things coherently, and he seems focused. Almost. He seems focused, yeah. And what I love to hear out of him is that he's not talking about like the money and the belts. He's just talking about legacy,
highlights, and just some stories to tell his kids.
Yeah, that's what he said in the press conference. I want to build up a highlight reel like Ali did. Like
what was it he said? I want my highlight reel to be like a movie,
like Roy Jones Jr. So he's in it now for the fighting, for the legacy. He's really in it. You could tell when he came in against Cerrone, he looked like otherworldly. He looked completely different to the Conor. He talked completely different, so respectful than the Conor that faced Habib. And again, this is the most recent Conor we've seen. Last year, obviously COVID happened. He said he wanted to be really active.
Just over a year ago. Yeah.
He couldn't fight the way he wanted to fight that year. Now he said he's committed to 155. He's ready to be active. And he's fighting Poirier. So I think we should look at it as if this is the focus, because it seems as well in all the build-up he's been so respectful to Dustin. It's all in good taste. It's not distasteful for watch like it was with the Habib fight. It's not this raving, shouting guy. It's like he says things, but he's just confident, and he's confident with his predictions, and he says things that he thinks are true, the same that he did in 2014, 2015.
They're not egotistical anymore. It's not none of the shouty nonsense type of thing.
They're not like I'm raved up on whatever substances and alcohol, shouting at everyone like a monkey. It's made me a fan of McGregor again. I had you remember in my old house, you come into the hallway and just this huge mural of Conor McGregor, like probably like 8 feet long in separate sections with a quote, and then like all of this stuff started to happen. I'm like, okay, I've got to take it down. I'm going to take it down. I'm still going to be there. I hope you get back on your feet, Conor. I want to support you, but I can't have that up on the wall representing what you are right now. He's back anyway. He's focused. We all have problems to deal with. He's gotten through his problems. More power to him. I'm really, really glad to see he's gotten through it. I wish I could find where that's gone so I could put it back up in the little gym area. It might be actually. But anyway, and he's got Dustin Poirier now. So it's a very focused. It's a very motivated about the legacy. Connor, matured Connor. But it's also a more matured Dustin, so let's have a look at that. We don't need to watch the Swanee fight, it's still fresh in our minds. We've been watching the footage all week. Alright, let's look at Dustin's record since their fight. And Dustin had already had a lot of fights in the UFC before they fought the first time, by the way. Because they were both fighting at 145, obviously. Look at all of this. Look at all of these fights before he fights. He's fought Holloway as well. He beat
Holloway's up there.
Yeah. Wait, is this upside down?
Shouldn't be.
It is upside down. That's weird.
Eddie Alvarez.
No, is it?
Dan Hooker.
Oh, it's not. I thought it was upside down for a second there. All right.
Oh, so his last fight was Dan Hooker. It's kind of.
All right.
Usually the other guy.
Oh yeah. Oh, what a fight and all. And this really shows the brilliance of Dustin. How much he's improved. So he's got a lot of fights. But he's fought Cub Swanson. Fought Max Holloway. He's fought a lot of big names. Fought Brandao like McGregor did. A lot of wins, a couple of losses scattered in here, but they're against guys like Cub Swanson, you know, killers in the 145 division. And then there's his loss, 2014, to Conor McGregor. Since then, when did he transfer to 155? I thought, was it immediately? It might have been immediately.
I don't know, Eddie Alvarez up there.
And that was definitely a 155.
That
That was at 155. I think it is here.
Yeah, it must be immediately.
So right after the Conor fight, I think he went up to 155. And he just, at 145, you could tell he was a lot more fragile. He didn't have the conditioning he had. He was getting dropped a lot in every fight. Conor said in the first fight, a gust of wind and he does a chicken dance. Like, his chin was definitely an issue. He goes up to 155 and he just seems more durable. He seems like he can take a lot more punishment off these guys. He still gets dropped here and there, but he's not being put away. He just seems more durable, and he's been involved in wars, like absolute brutal, getting taken hits, given hits. Beat Ferrer, beat Yancy Medeiros, beat Joe Duffy, Bobby Green, quite a few impressive names. Loses against Michael Johnson, who is a fantastic boxer.
And Jim Miller, and then loses to Eddie Alvarez.
No contest against Eddie Alvarez, actually. No contest. But again, it's good boxers that you see that he's struggling with here anyway.
But he goes back to beat Eddie Alvarez up there.
Yeah. And that's really what I want to talk about him since about 2017.
When you look at these records, though, it's almost like we're living in Khabib's shadow, because everybody's got a loss to Khabib right at the top
When you
of their
look at the
recent sections.
155
They really
division,
do.
It's hard to see somebody who hasn't been beat by Khabib.
Yeah.
Well, Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that fight he tried to make 5 fucking times.
It didn't end up having him engaged. He took it.
Still, and now he's retired, and we'll never see it.
And we'll never know.
Anyway, we'll cut off from the Eddie Alvarez fight. Fighting Anthony Pettis. Again, Anthony Pettis, another veteran of the sport, beats Justin Gaethje, who absolutely dominated Ferguson and went on to fight for the title. Beats Eddie Alvarez, who was the champion and who was
the loss of Eddie
still
Alvarez too.
Yeah, it goes back. He gets that one back, and then Max Holloway comes up to fight him for the interim belt, and he beats Max Holloway.
Too.
He really puts his power on Max Holloway, and then loses to Khabib, but he puts on a good showing, makes it 3 rounds, gets tapped out. Everybody loses to Khabib. Let's just
everybody loses to
slide that along. And then he beats Dan Hooker in an absolute 5-round war, beats him by decision. So those fights there, he's beat Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, Max Holloway, and Dan Hooker. That's an absolute murderer's row.
Yeah. That's a rap sheet, not a fight
Yeah,
record.
it's a huge, like, every one of these on any particular given day could be champion if they get lucky on the right night, you know what I mean? All of these guys could be a champion. And he's beaten them all, and he's beaten them all in a really, really good way. KO on a few of these guys, look at that.
Yeah, KO against Justin Gaethje.
Yeah.
And Eddie Alvarez.
One thing I would mention about the Gaethje fight is that was reckless Gaethje.
Right.
So, like, Gaethje, when he was coming in, he was like, I don't care about being a champion. I don't care about how long. I only want 5 fights, and I want them to be wars. And he would just go out and he would stand and bang, and there would be absolute wars. And then one day he showed up to Trevor Whitman, his head coach, and was like, I don't want wars anymore, I want to be a champion. And that's when you saw him like dial it in, and he just put on that absolute stellar performance against Tony Ferguson. But anyway, yeah, he still beat Alvarez, still beat Holloway, and we've seen just how good Holloway is over the past weekend. We saw it against Ortega a couple of years ago. Holloway is possibly the greatest featherweight of all time. He's done a lot in that division. Loses to Khabib again, threw out the window, and then beats Dan Hooker in a war. And we will look at those highlights because it's good to see. That's the greatest example of the grit and the heart that Dustin Poirier is going to bring to this second fight against Conor McGregor. So they're both much improved guys. Let's talk a little bit about. I'll open up a tab. We'll do it on this one. I'll open up a tab on YouTube just to show the Dustin versus Dan Hooker highlights. If anybody's just listening to this, I don't know why I'm looking at the camera while I say that, because if they're just listening, they're not going to see me talk to them. If anyone's listening to it anywhere on Spotify or whatever, we are just going to be looking at the fights on YouTube, but we will explain what's happening and what we're talking about as much as we can. All right. See if it just brings up highlights straight away. Oh, it's a free fight. I feel like I don't want to go through the whole fight.
There's a highlight underneath.
That's a free fight. We'll have to watch that. Did you catch that one or no?
I honestly couldn't tell you at this point.
I think you might have missed this one. Fight of the year 2020. Might have been. Probably not. Yeah, I don't think it won either. But it was a fucking great fight. Anyway, I'll just let those play in the background and you watch them. Something Dustin has changed about his game is he wasn't very great at entering fighters' close ranges.
Right.
He would always get hit and wobbled, dropped, or like he just wouldn't be able to connect and find the range. Something he's gotten a lot better at. He can read it a lot better. He does more feints, and he does like this shift where he'll like shift into his opposite stance, jab, and then shift, and it's there. You see how he's like shifted to a different stance. He does that really well. And I'm glad he did that as I'm talking about it. He can like shift stances into somebody's range a lot better. Dan Hooker, fucking amazing striker, amazing chin. Really excited to see his fight against Chandler. But you see how Poirier is a lot better at entering fighters and connecting those combos. Yeah. And the tale of Dustin Poirier, it's all heart, it's all grit. Look at that beautiful elbow in the clinch. He's fighting here, but you can just tell he's getting hit and he's hitting. He's willing to engage. Backing up, getting the clinch. You see there, just those little. He threw like a side jab, like almost like a karate chop with a closed fist, while he was standing up in the clinch. You see there, jabs, cross. And again, Dan Hooker's an intelligible striker. You see he's putting his hand on his shoulder and circling away to make it harder for Dustin to hit him. He's an intelligent striker. Whenever you see somebody like do that and try and get his foot on the outside of the other guy's foot, that makes it a lot harder for the other guy to hit you and land combos, because you can like spin around to the angle he's not facing. He has to try and turn and follow you. But it's just a lot of grit, and this really was a war. They hit each other a lot with big bombs. You look at that. Dustin he's become a really gritty fighter. He's just hitting him in the clinch hard. Every opportunity he can get, he's going to look for a punch. He's not grinding out like a lot of guys do here and looking for underhooks, looking for control position. He's in the clinch, applying pressure with his shoulder, and he's just putting strikes off, and then he might go for something.
That was 2 elbows.
Yeah, right. But you can see how he's become a lot more durable. He's taking those shots.
Yeah.
He's not being wobbled. And again, he just looks a lot more. He looks a lot thicker than he did at 145 as well. And look at that. He's mixing it up as well, mixing up the shots with the drops. What I will say though is this kind of stuff that he's doing there is exchanging in the pocket. It will not work with McGregor.
No.
Because McGregor, he's too good at managing his distance and picking those shots and then disappearing, like float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. McGregor does that fantastically.
Like a cannonball, sting like a shark.
yeah. And he will pick those shots perfectly. Poirier won't have to. And if Poirier dives in for those legs, I feel like he's going to get caught with something on the way in, or Conor's just going to be able to shut it down real quick and disengage and go back. I think he has a better grappling game than Hooker, I do believe. But yeah, we'll skip forward here. But you can see Dustin how much of a was. He's getting hit and he's getting shots, but he's not wobbled.
Yeah.
He's much more durable. That's clear to say. It's easy to see. But he's just much better at getting into the ranges without being hit. He can get. Oh, is this not plugged in?
There we go. Okay,
We're back. You never knew we were gone. All right. So yeah, Dustin is clearly much more durable. He can enter the fight much better. Apart from that, there's not too much different. He will have gotten. He's got more power. He'll be a bit crisper. He's a bit better at entering in at range. He picks his shots a little bit better. His grappling would have improved slightly. It's little improvements. We've found he's got a brilliant guillotine, a really tight guillotine. He has a really tight grip in general when he gets that sort of grip on, the way he pulled Dan Hooker down to the ground there. You would think he would use it a little bit more in his clinch. We haven't seen it too much. He nearly finished Khabib with a guillotine, which was crazy. But again, I don't think it's going to be a factor in this fight because I don't think he's going to be able to get Conor to the ground. My opinion. So again, we're seeing the grappling, we're seeing the submission. How Poirier actually does have a decent submission arsenal. He's not bad on the ground. Again, he's against Dan Hooker here, who is, I will stand up and I will bang with you, but again, he's gone for an omoplata there.
It looks like we're seeing a lot of the same, which leads me to my next point. I think the Poirier is quite a vanilla fighter in this weight division. If you know what I mean, like not trying to say that
he doesn't specialize in anything. That's what you're saying.
There's nothing extravagant or flamboyant going on, to be honest.
He's just a generally rounded fighter.
Yeah,
he has good power. Yeah, I get what you. I agree with you. He has good power. He has a good set of skills.
Yeah,
he has a good base for.
But he
for
doesn't
a fighter.
carry anything outside the box in that
Specialise in
direction.
anything.
Yeah,
I get what you mean. Definitely. I feel like where he does best in the Fat Joe coming in there, best fight I've ever seen. Where he I would say where Dustin specialises is his heart, his grit,
right.
His ability, his durability, his ability to stay in the fight now
to
and
go
really
on,
make it a war.
To put up with it.
His heart when he's in there, similar to Anthony Smith, who fights at heavyweight. I could maybe show you some videos. I would compare him to the lightweight Anthony Smith. But again, we see the fight kind of grind out. They're both striking each other, submission attempts. They're both bloodied up, and it just ends up being an all-out war.
It was a unanimous decision in this fight, wasn't it?
It was, a unanimous decision for Dustin Poirier. That was his last fight. Their two last fights couldn't have gone more different.
Yeah.
Dustin's was a grind, a war. Connor's was
43 seconds.
40 seconds. Destroy Cowboy power, came out, flawless performance. And that's going to be the tale of this fight. It's going to be Dustin with his grit and heart trying to make it a war, trying to stay out of the way or survive Connor's power for long enough to turn it into a gritty war.
And Conor trying to get the first or second round finish.
Well, Conor has said he doesn't care what... He says he doesn't think Dustin will be able to survive the technique, the power, everything that he has to bring. But he says he hope he does, because he would also love a war.
He said he's got a million different shots up his sleeve that he'll never see coming. So I guess we'll find out.
And I believe him, like those shoulder strikes. I want to actually talk a little bit and break down those shoulder strikes as well, just to show the genius of Conor and his what's the word? His
ingenuity.
Ingenuity, is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah. I really want to talk about that in a minute, but he says he would love if it became a war. Because again, he wants time in the octagon, he wants activity, he wants highlights to add to his highlight reel. But he said he just doesn't think that Dustin's going to be able to survive. And overall, I would agree. I think we'll open up the Conor versus Cerrone fight so I can break down those shoulder strikes.
You're gonna have to be quick.
Yeah, I am. But again, I think Dustin, the way he's been talking, he definitely looks a little uncomfortable during the press conference. I think mentally it is going to be a struggle for him. It's going to be an uphill battle. He was knocked out 6 years ago by this guy. It's the same guy who's only gotten better. He's gotten better as well, but Conor's just been through different sort of levels. he said this weekend, greatness is still levels below me, and I would agree to that to a certain extent, because I would regard Dustin Poirier as a great fighter. I would regard Conor McGregor definitely as something else. All right.
The hair.
Yeah, he's bald now.
I know.
Bald like Dirty Dana.
Dirty Dana.
Dirty Dana. All right. So I'll let this play through. But right, here we go. So I want to break it down from here in a second. But the way Dustin's talking, he's like, I'm much more durable and will be able to survive in there now and make it turn into a war. I think he is going to try and like go out and grip battle with Conor more than just avoid the strikes and hope Conor gets tired. I don't think that's Dustin's style. And based on what he said leading up to the fight, I don't think that's what he's going to try and do. I think Dustin is just going to think, I think his team believes that he is durable enough now to survive Conor's shots. And I think he's going to, I think it's going to be similar to the Eddie Alvarez versus Conor fight, where he just picks him apart and just drops him. And I think it's going to be a quick finish. Depending on what Conor has up his sleeves, maybe it will be a 60-second fight. I believe it might go on for a couple of minutes though, and then he picks him down and eventually drops him. I think it's going to be a quick KO. But let's just talk about this. All right. So you see here, he goes in. He overextends with the left.
Yeah.
And Cowboy ducks under. He immediately stiffens his hard and brings up his knee, which connects with Cowboy's head. In a split second, he adapts and pulls off a shot, straightens up his body so that he doesn't like get folded over, pushes off of him, grabs the underhook, while simultaneously kneeing Cowboy in the face, and then he grips Cowboy in the underhook. So this is something that was planned in the clinch. He was clearly he's trained for this. He underhooked Cerrone like that and grabbed his wrist. What he's doing there is he's pulling Cerrone down from the top of the shoulder, from here, and from the wrist.
Watch the wrist.
Not pulling him. Oh yeah, sorry, your new tattoos. Grabbing him right underneath the shoulder pit, and grabbing him on the wrist and pulling him down, and then batting that shoulder up. So he's like really putting loads. So people are like, shoulder strikes don't hurt. They don't when you're just up against a clinch and you're like bumping up. But when you're holding someone and
you're pulling them
fucking smack them and you like really hit them in, it broke Cerrone's nose, and it's easy to see why. Look at him. He's holding the wrist and he's grabbing that arm and he's pulling Cerrone down as he's like literally jumping up into these strikes. So he's holding the wrist, and then he lets go. He pushes him away. Cerrone tries the head kick. He kicks back with pinpoint precision, up over the arm, landed on the chin. Here we go. Cerrone's kick. He blocks it up over the arm, on the chin. That's precision. That's beautiful, beautiful precision. And then look how measured he is. He's like waiting, like, which strike am I going to take? This one, this one, this one.
Just watching openings. He's constantly got an opening there. You never closed from
finishes him off. He's holding his head down. He's like, where am I going to hit him? Just super thoughtful in the cage. That kind of composure is very, very rare in a fighter. And you usually find that when a fighter has that kind of composure, their striking is just that much more deadly. We won't break down any more of that fight. I do predict a Conor win. I think he's going to break him down quite quickly.
At this point, don't we?
Oh, Dustin's definitely an underdog.
Yeah, we're all.
There's a few Dustin fans here and there, but I also feel like they're not so much Dustin fans; they're Conor haters.
Yeah, you could be right.
Yeah, I would love to see a war between them both. It would be amazing, and I would feel good for Dustin if Dustin sort of came back from their first fight with like a gritted, a decision loss rather than a.
Yeah.
But I feel like it is going to be quick work for Conor. I don't think he's going to get the time in the octagon he wants, and I think they're both going to shake hands. And Conor was talking about helping him distribute his hot sauce that Dustin's just came out with.
You never know though. Conor might make time in the octagon at the same time. If we're looking at a highlight legacy reel type Conor now, not the knockout artist Conor we're used to seeing, he may make time.
You could be right, because he said maybe part of me will.
I think it will depend on the first and second round though, on how threatened he feels going into it.
Potentially, yeah. Sometimes a guy will force you to.
If he feels like.
But again, this is the highest level of fighting.
Of course.
It's very, very, very rare at this level of fighting that somebody gets to pick how and when they dismantle their opponent. It's very rare a fighter will be able to I'll just survive a little bit longer, maybe I'll play with them a bit. And even if that happens, usually they could get punished for it. And it's even more rare for a fighter to have the composure and the balls to do it early on in the fight when they could have finished them. But again, he said, maybe I'll subconsciously be ready for the finish for him, and then I'll back up a bit. which could cost him in a fight.
It could.
But you're not wrong. He might do that. He
It
might do
depends
that.
whether Conor comes out and he's like, "Nah, Poirier's dog water. Fuck this."
I feel like he'll probably just try and get him away quick. The competitiveness. I doubt. And it would also be really hard to do that with a fighter as gritty and as hard, unless he really had Dustin hurt, like really badly had him hurt. But anyway, yeah, I predict that finish for Gaethje. Because why did I say Gaethje for Conor? Again, we'll just quickly skip over this. Oh, I just shut down. Oh no, I didn't. All right, we're good. Right, let's quickly take a look at Dan Hooker's record. All right. God, he's had so many fights in the UFC already. Because Dan Hooker seems so relatively new to the elite scene, you wouldn't believe he's been fighting there for a long time. Debuts against, I'm not even going to pronounce that name, Entwistle.
Ian.
Ian. I should have just said Ian. Debuts against Ian. Goes on to fight Blanco, Hiyoko, Rodriguez. Oh, I do remember that fight actually. He fights Rodriguez. They're both sort of up and coming fighters. Loses. Comes back with a win, loses to Jason Knight, who is now fighting bare knuckle boxing. Recently lost to Artem Lobov there. Shout out Ross Pearson. He goes on to defeat Ross Pearson, who is from Sunderland.
We're not proud of that.
Hey, we're not from Sunderland.
True.
We just happen to live here. Beats Diakese, that's a guy with a red mohawk if you've ever seen him.
Yeah.
Beats Jim Miller, big win. Beats Gilbert Burns, huge win against Gilbert Burns, who is now fighting at the 170. Gilbert Burns went up in weight. Loses to Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza, elite fighter. Ugh, I had a shiver.
The fuck was
I
that?
had a shiver. Elite fighter. You can't complain losing to Edson Barboza. Beats James Fix. Beats Ali Quinter. Beats Paul Felder. Now he's lost to Dustin Poirier in his last fight. Now he's beaten Michael Chandler. So to give my opinion on what Dan Hooker is, he is a top 5 fighter who will beat the other guys who are around that number 5 rank. But he has never quite broken into the title contendership yet. He hasn't racked up enough impressive wins to fight for the title, or even fight for a number 1 contendership yet. If he had beat Dustin Poirier, he would have been in there with a title shot. But he lost every time he fights a guy that might push him towards a title shot, like Edson Barboza or Dustin Poirier. He loses against them, but then he beats all the other top 10 guys.
Yeah.
So for me, he's sort of a gatekeeper to the top 5 at the minute, and he's, I think, a perfect introduction for Michael Chandler, who is a world champion in other organizations. He's coming in with a very strong resume, very strong words to fight. Dan Hooker, who I think is a gatekeeper for the top 5. I hope Dan Hooker wouldn't take offense at that. That's just what he is right now. He's still got plenty of time to become more than that, and he may well become more than that. Could start it with the Chandler fight. Just right now, that's all he's been.
That's where he is. That's
at the minute,
position
which is still top 5 fighters in the world. It's not like it's nothing an achievement. That's just where he is right now. Michael Chandler. We have to go to a different site for his records because UFC doesn't have his records yet. This is his debut against the top 5 gatekeeper, in my opinion, Dan Hooker.
Let's see. Will we recognise anybody here?
Will you recognise it? You will recognise.
Probably won't.
You will recognise some names. He's beat some fantastic guys. None of these names you'll recognise, but he's building up a heavy win rack. Boom, Eddie Alvarez.
Yeah.
Beat Eddie Alvarez in 2011.
Jesus.
Yeah, that was before Eddie Alvarez
Going
went
back
to the
through time, his
UFC.
fight record starts in 2009.
Oh yeah.
11 years in the game.
Yeah, he's been fighting a while. But that was his pro debut. That wasn't like what, First Blood, then Strikeforce, and then he's straight into Bellator. He obviously becomes champion. Defeats Eddie Alvarez. That's a big name that has been a champion in the UFC.
And then loses to Eddie Alvarez.
Then lost to Eddie Alvarez 2 years later by a split decision. Eddie Alvarez also goes on to become UFC champion, obviously. Loses to Will Brooks twice off the bat. Beats Benson Henderson, who was a bit of an MMA legend. Yamachi, good. Primus.
Well.
And then that's his most recent win against Benson Henderson. So he's a world champion. He was a world champion in Bellator, world champion in other promotions. He's built up a decent resume. He's quite into his career now. He's finally fighting. I really need the toilet. He's fighting we'll have to try and wrap this up quick.
Yeah.
He's fighting some good competition, and he's been a champion. 21-5. It's not a bad record. 9 KOs, 7 submissions, 5 decisions. So he shows he has a well-rounded game. He has good wrestling, good. He's very good grappling game. 5'8", 155 pounds. We're basically going to find out what he's made of. How good is he? How good has he been? Is he going to match up in the top 5 of the UFC? We're going to find out. In terms of predictions for this fight, I think he is definitely going to try and grapple Dan Hooker. I think Dan Hooker's going to win in a lot of the striking exchanges, but I think he's probably going to get a decision win by taking the fight to the ground and pound. Looking to enter in on Dan Hooker. I think just to give a very brief prediction, I think Chandler's going to take the fight to the ground.
I was going to say the same thing.
Let me quickly show you. We've got some Chandler highlights for you to watch in the background.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, I think Chandler is going to take it, but I am still backing Hooker.
Yeah? Because Dan Hooker's he's Australian. We love the Australians.
Exactly.
But yeah, look. The first thing, before you even see him throw a punch, you see him grappling.
Yeah, it's grappling.
He has been accused a lot of being on the sauce. Whether or not he is, we just don't know.
He may still be on the sauce.
As somebody who knows a bit about what they're talking about, especially when it comes to like steroids and all of that kind of stuff, I don't think he has a body that you could wildly accuse of being on steroids. If the guy's genetically gifted and he works hard, and he clearly is genetically gifted, he's fighting in a top organization now. But it's also a guy who, like, I see that body, I'm like, he could definitely be on steroids as well. He could definitely be on a lot of different steroids. But yeah, he's one of those cases where, like, unless there's any proof, I can't remember if did he pop and get suspended, or am I thinking of someone else? I can't remember. It's sketchy. But a lot of fans have said his first fight will be against USADA, the drug testing company for the UFC.
Right.
But I don't think he'll have a problem with the drug testing. I could be wrong.
Surely by now
that's just dropped him on his head. Really good. See how quickly he took the back there. Yeah. Just really good grappling. Takes the back. He's finishing minded as well. He said in the press conference, he said leading up to this week, he says he only knows one speed, and that's acceleration. He puts his foot on the gas and he doesn't stop. Yeah, good grappling skills. Could even submit Dan Hooker. We saw Dan Hooker trying to defend against Poirier's submissions. Poirier isn't a submission artist. He has great submission game, but yeah, I think Chandler's definitely going to look to take this to the ground, and I think he's going to win the fight there. You saw some Dan Hooker highlights of him. Yeah. He has great striking, Dan Hooker. But again, it's all ground game that you're seeing here in his top finishers, top highlights. And it's definitely going to be that kind of fight. Dan Hooker thinks that Michael Chandler fares up against him really well stylistically. Dan Hooker thinks he's going to be able to beat Michael Chandler quite comfortably. And it comes down to is Hooker's takedown defense good enough? Because I think based on what we've seen of Hooker on the ground, I think Chandler beats him on the ground. Again, it's a lot of unknown because we haven't seen Chandler up against even a top 10 UFC fighter yet.
No, not at all.
So anyway, yeah, that's the story of Michael Chandler versus Dan Hooker. I think Chandler's going to win it on the ground.
Yeah, so we're putting in predictions. It's going to be Chandler and McGregor.
Chandler and McGregor.
Victories tomorrow night.
And they've been talking a little bit about a tournament, like a lightweight tournament, like because Khabib's he's probably going to stay retired. What happens with the belt? They think the winner of the McGregor Poirier fight will fight the winner of the Michael Chandler Dan Hooker fight, maybe possibly for the title itself, or maybe you'll see the winner of the Oliveira Gaethje fight go up and then fight the winner of the Oliveira fight might fight somebody else. You throw Gaethje in there somewhere, and then it will come to a tournament.
Gaethje definitely deserves a chance at this point. Though he's come through.
Yeah, he definitely needs to fight someone else though. The way he got dominated by Khabib.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the story of the fights this weekend. I really need the toilet.
Okay, we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, we'll wrap that up. Those are our official predictions. Conor McGregor, round 1 KO. I'm going for.
Round 1 KO. That's strong.
It is. I think that's the way it's going to be. I wouldn't have said that if Dustin didn't look so uncomfortable during the press-up.
Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't say you're wrong.
We're going to toss.
I wouldn't argue with it either, but I'm hoping for a little bit more of a fight, considering we're all paying pay-per-view for it.
Well, we'll get fights across the card.
No, of course.
Oh,
There it is.
that noise. But yeah, and I think Michael Chandler by decision, and I would second guess myself round 2 submission. What would you say based on the small highlights you've seen there?
It's going to be a round 1 finish.
You think for
Yeah.
Michael Chandler?
Jesus Christ.
I need this closer. We don't have a tumbler glass. We're just going to take a
For
big
Michael
ass
Chandler
fucking
hooker. No,
shot.
I think that's going to go a decision.
You think it's
I
going to be
think
a
it's going to go a
decision?
decision to Chandler. Yeah.
Decision win for Chandler. Which one do you want?
The small one. I got shit to do. I got shit to do tonight.
Hey, I'm up early for work. I'm up at 5 a.m. for work. All right. Big ass Naruto size glass. To the return of a focused McGregor. To the heart of Dustin Poirier. To finding out how good Michael Chandler is in the UFC.
Yeah, to his debut.
To maybe Dan Hooker becoming more than a top 5 gatekeeper. Ooh, clean. No, it's good. It's good. All right. Well, I guess that'll be it. We don't really have anything else to say about those fights that happened this weekend. We could go longer, but I really need a toilet, and he has stuff to do tonight. I also have to be really early for work, so we'll end it there. We could talk about other stuff in a different podcast later that I want to talk about. But it's been great having you. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Links to our Instagram will be down in the description. Go give us a follow there. Make sure you like and subscribe this video if you enjoyed the podcast or if you learned anything new about the fights or it was just good background music while you're cleaning the house or whatever. We'll catch you all guys later. Oh, nearly forgot. If the shot of whiskey wasn't enough.
Face or fist?
This has been the Creator Fighter Podcast.